You know, guys, it feels like a lifetime has gone by just given how many tragic things have happened in Hollywood recently with the murder of Rob Reiner, the arrest of his son, obviously the murder of his wife as well. It seems like that has taken up all of the news in the last couple of days, but people have already seemed to have forgotten that 2 days prior to Rob Reiner's murder was the death of actor Peter Greene. He was in Pulp Fiction. Of course, I remember him as the bad guy in The Mask. That was the quintessential role for me growing up. And if I do remember correctly, he plays the very first villain that goes face to face with Raylan Givens in the show Justified. But 2 days prior to Rob Reiner's death, Peter Greene's death was reported. And now there are all sorts of questions being asked about that death. Suspicious circumstances seem to surround it, and there's a lot of information here that just seems to be going under the radar, by the wayside, because so much attention has been going to Rob Reiner's murder. And obviously now with the arrest of his son and his first appearance in court, it feels like that's where all of the celebrity, I guess, views have gone to in the last few days. But let's look into this here. This is from TMZ. It says Pulp Fiction star Peter Greene's body had injuries on him when he was found dead. Late Pulp Fiction villain Peter Greene had injuries on his body when he was found dead in his New York apartment last week, and authorities are still trying to figure out what caused the injuries and what led to his death. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ the actor's body was found with some injuries, but it's undetermined what caused those injuries. We're told the medical examiner is trying to determine a cause and manner of death, and at this point it remains unclear if Peter's death is a result of homicide, suicide, drugs, or something else. As we reported, Peter was found dead last Friday in his Manhattan apartment after cops conducted a welfare check. We're told police were called because neighbors had reported loud music being heard coming from inside Peter's apartment for a few days. Peter's neighbors called the building manager, and then police were contacted for a welfare check, and a locksmith was called to open the door. Our sources say Peter was found in his living room. There was more stuff reported on this. So immediately people are going to ask questions if the idea here is that if a struggle happened and somebody turned music up, if something, to avoid the sound of perhaps things crashing around, or did he simply just turn the music up before he did something to himself? Nobody knows yet, and they're trying to figure that out. And there's a lot of questions here. Follow up here from page 6. It says the Masked star was reportedly found lying face down with blood everywhere, according to a neighbor who spoke to the New York Daily News. A strange note was found near his body that read, "I'm still a Westie," a nod to the 1970s Irish actors Hell's Kitchen gang. So is that supposed to be, is what we're looking at here is his suicide note? Is that was his last statement to the world before, he committed suicide? I don't know, but there's a lot of questions because of the injuries. Greene had never shied away from his past drug use and had been outspoken about attempting suicide in 1996. The idea of him taking his own life in 2025, however, is unthinkable to his longtime manager, Greg Edwards, who told us he didn't get a sense that he was suicidal. Not at all, he said, adding that Greene was in good spirits on Wednesday, 2 days before he was found lifeless in his Clinton Street apartment. His friend of 27 years, New York actor and musician Scam Dust, told us Greene was making New Year's Eve plans to hang out with his friends, including him, Danny Diablo, and graffiti writer MQ. He was going to rent a truck limousine, and Peter's vision was that they were going to go bar hopping and restaurant hopping. He wasn't suicidal, he said. Another friend who chose to remain anonymous said that friends were always concerned Greene's life would come to a tragic end due to his relationship with drugs. He would get clean. He would try to get back to normal, and then he wouldn't be able to kick it. The source added pals would often do welfare checks when they couldn't reach him. Scam Dust admitted that he did a welfare check one day only to find Greene had fled for upstate New York. Quote, He was in the Adirondack Mountains up there reading scripts. He was going in deep, shut his phone off, and you won't see him for a while. He read every script, by the way, he said. He added that he had no indication that Greene was back on drugs. Edwards told us Greene was looking forward to upcoming projects, including their film From the American People, The Withdrawal of ASID, a documentary that Greene was planning to narrate. I'm going to miss him. He would give you the shirt off his back. A choked up Scam Dust described the loss as a deep hole in my heart. So look, there's questions there. This feels to be the truth for a lot of Hollywood. Is so much of it. It happens to so many of them. So I don't know if this is something where we haven't been told yet that a weapon was used and they don't know what that is. Is it possible that he committed suicide via firearm, something like that? Or did something more nefarious happen? It's kind of crazy because none of the attention is being paid to it by the media, because all of the media seems to talk about is what happened to Rob Reiner and his wife. But stories like this are always kind of scary when you think about it, because most people think about acting as the type of profession that's all big lights and glitz and glamour. And for a lot of them, you know, we've had this discussion on the show tons of times. A lot of actors end up with substance abuse issues. A lot of actors end up with the type of problem that ends up being something that they only feel that they can fix with pills or a bottle or something like that. A lot of times I am of the opinion that actors, because they have to access emotionality that isn't actually necessarily even theirs, means that they are, in a lot of ways, they live their lives with their heart on their sleeves, and it makes them more emotionally fraught. You also need to understand, guys, that when it comes to Hollywood culture and drugs, death by overdose, unfortunately, it's a sad truth, but it is a truth that dying by overdose and drug addiction in Hollywood, it's almost the rule and not the exception. I'm just going back here to 2018. This list on Wikipedia, it's massive, going back over 100 years of all of the celebrities and noteworthy figures that have died via overdose or alcoholism. We've got Vern Troyer, we've got Juice WRLD, we've got Michael K. Williams. Go down further here. And we go down even further. Aaron Carter, Coolio, Angus Cloud. Farther down, Matthew Perry, Liam Payne. That was very, very recently. Shifty Shellshock. There are just so many of them, guys. The connection between celebrity culture, the use of drugs, and unfortunately overdoses. It's a tale as old as time. And what has happened to Peter Greene is unfortunately nothing new. But just because it is nothing new does not mean that it's not something worth commenting on, especially since we don't even know what the situation here is, given that the actor himself had suicidal ideation before. He had attempted it once before in 1996, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened here, but it has to require you to raise the question. And it is disconcerting for a lot of people. You can work your whole life, and I'm somebody who has been through this myself. You can work your whole life to clean up, to be sober, but it is a battle each and every day, and you have to fight that battle to the death sometimes. And all of this being, considered, him being found in a pool of blood, was that a pool of his own blood? Was it a pool of his blood mixed with someone else's? I don't know, but it is scary to think that Rob Reiner's death has now kind of outshined it because of the gruesome nature of that and the connection to his son. Obviously, what Donald Trump said after the fact didn't help and made it even more, I guess a lot of what happened to Rob Reiner is also connected to his politics and the way it became the topic of discussion between liberals and conservatives on X regarding his death, because so many people have so many fond memories of movies that Rob Reiner made. But a guy like Peter Greene, like I said, The Mask is one of those quintessential movies from my childhood. I was actually terrified of, the villain when he put the mask on, of his character at the end when he put the mask on, and loved the artistic direction of how it made his face so much scarier than Jim Carrey's face when he was wearing the mask. And it's one of those first real examples, I think, of unique art direction when it comes to movies that I've watched. So these are people that you spent your life with. And even when I think about it, and I do actually think about this sometimes. So when he was in that pilot episode of Justified, somebody can fact check me on that if I'm wrong, but I remember even then, maybe it's just because my only real images of him were from Pulp Fiction and then obviously from The Mask, where he seemed like larger than life and scary when I was a kid and I hadn't watched the movie in that long. But even when I was watching that show, it seemed like his shirt was gaping at the collar and he seemed unwell. And that would have been back in, I guess, the early 2010s or even before that. So it's crazy. And I wonder what actually happened here, if there was any foul play involved. I hope that the authorities are able to get to the bottom of the story and figure out what happened and bring that person to justice. But if it is a case of substance abuse leading to suicide, it is one of those things. My heart goes out to his family. I've been in that place in my life. I have been through, the worst part of addiction that a person can go through. So I understand that struggle. I understand that for a lot of people, it doesn't matter how long you're clean, you're never truly over it. It always really is truly one day at a time. And if that is what happened here and he succumbed to that, then my heart breaks for him. My heart breaks for his family. And I hope that everybody involved gets the peace and the closure that they are looking for. I would just like to know, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Do you find there to be anything suspicious about this? And do you think that it's possible that more attention would be being paid to this if the news cycle wasn't so inundated with the stories about Rob Reiner, Nick Reiner, his wife, all of that? Let me know down below, guys, what you think about it. And if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.